Well, thank you so much for helping my project. I was wondering if we
Right.
could start off by you saying a little bit about yourself.
hmm Okay, hi, I'm Mustafa. I work for a company called Ansys. We design simulation software that deals with a lot of things. It could be, for instance, the flow over a vehicle or the shock that forms over a space shuttle during re-entry. All that stuff, we write algorithms for that. And that kind of goes into a simulation, and then engineers end up using it. Engineers in NASA, engineers anywhere else, be it in Formula One cars, etc. So I'm still tied into engineering, but I'm moving into software where I'm harnessing all these partial differential equations to kind of have results that are good for engineers to work with.
That's amazing. And I noticed the art behind you, with the astronaut and the moon and the stars.
I thought that would be relevant, so I kind of moved my laptop. I made that conscious decision to have that in the background. Yeah, but I'm like a big space buff. I have an astronaut tattooed right here on my arm as well, if you can
Oh
see it.
wow.
Yeah, it's sitting on the moon. Oh well, on the Earth. But yeah, so it's all around me. I'm yeah happy about it.
So what attracts you? Do you remember when you first got excited about space? Like, what what's your first space memory?
Right. It's weird enough, but I do a lot of quizzing. So my first real memory of space was back in 2005, where they kind of asked me to figure out an event that didn't happen since 1972, I think. But at the time, it was so unbelievable because the event, of course, being that we hadn't put a man on the moon, man or woman on the moon, for about 30 years at the time. So at that point, I was like, hey, that's something that hasn't happened in a long time. And that's kind of when I started looking up things. I started following a lot of channels like Kurzgesagt, for example, uh, places that make a lot of good content about space. Then I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's kind of where the interest started building up as well. Uh, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I love the intro to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yep,
I think there's so much good critique on our current
right,
society right in that
right,
first few paragraphs.
right. It is right.
Um, well, that event that happened in 1972, I guess would be Apollo 17.
Yep. I think that was the third attempt to the moon. I'm not sure. Not good with the trivia
I
there, but
it it was the sixth landing on the moon.
okay. So in the space of 69 to 72, they had six landings and they never did again.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
kind
Yeah,
of
Apollo 11 was 1969, and then they
mhm,
had Apollo 12. 13, of course, didn't make it. I mean, they made
right,
it back, but it didn't land on the moon. And then you had 14, 15, 16, and 17. So,
right.
um,
Okay.
and so 12 people walked on the moon.
Yep. But do you think it's kind of weird that the only motivation at the time in the late 60s was the space race, and then they didn't really have that motivation anymore, or probably there was nothing left to discover, more or less, on the moon? They knew everything they needed to know. What do you think stopped them from going back for another 30 years or more, 40 years now?
Yeah, I mean, I think a large part of it had to do with cost. I mean, if you throw away the vehicle every single time you go, it's really hard
Right,
to go anywhere.
right. No, then agree with you. Yep.
And it's not a. I think if you look at the motivations of the time, the idea of stopping after Apollo 17 is less surprising than having Apollo 12, because
Right.
once you've landed on the moon, you're like, oh, I've done that,
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
Yeah, but we're going back to the moon. I guess you know about this.
I know the Artemis mission that's kind of, I think, scheduled slated to be around 2024, I think. Yep.
When I started this
Yes.
project, Artemis 3, which would be the first landing on the moon since 1972, was scheduled to be 2024. That's kind of slipped out to 2025. And then
Okay.
Artemis 1, which is a uncrewed test flight, it's happening right now as we speak.
Oh, really? So they've actually put it out already, or is it going to happen? Is the launch going to happen sometime now?
The launch happened about 2 weeks ago,
Oh,
and the Orion capsule that will carry 4 astronauts for Artemis 2 a test version of that has orbited the moon and is on its way back and should land in
Okay.
the Pacific in about 6 days.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Yeah, I think I did remember they launched something. I didn't know it was called. It was part of the whole global Artemis project. That's good to know. Oh, okay.
But when did you find out that we were going back to the moon?
I think when I read about the Artemis mission some time ago, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 months ago, not too long ago.
Most of the people I talk to at coffee shops don't know that we're going
Right.
to the moon. But
Right.
what do you think about it?
Uh, I mean, why not? It's been a while. And yeah, and it's always a good idea. I don't know, people have this ongoing debate about whether it's prudent to have resources spent on space when there's stuff to be spent on the Earth, but then why not? I mean, we do advance humanity in other ways than obvious ones. Probably not, probably something that you find in the moon dust, some slivers of ice, or something that could indicate that the moon is habitable. Maybe that's of advantage to humanity as a whole. So in ways that we don't understand fully right now.
Yeah, I know we spend money on like entertainment, cosmetics, uh, sports,
Mm,
but we accept all those things. But whenever it comes to exploration, it gets a little bit more,
right.
I
I mean,
guess.
because in exploration, I think the budgets are presented as a lump sum, like, hey, NASA spent, I don't know, $500 billion on this project. Whereas entertainment, it's like, globs and pieces. You don't really see the big picture. Hey, we're spending that much as a species on something that's probably not useful at all. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess if you're buying a ticket to the theater at $7, you're like, oh, $7. But if it's
It
like
adds up.
7 billion, you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. No one sees that big number because there's no point in having a big number. Yeah.
except the box office returns. Like, oh, this movie got $150 million.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what they're running on. That's their gasoline, the profits.
So whenever you look at the future of humanity, say 200 years out, what does it look like to you?
I don't know, not that different. I mean, I mean, I know that about 50 years ago we would have thought we'd all be in flying cars by now. But I'm so given that that has crashed and burned, that at least that kind of vision, I know that I'm going to be a little conservative, and I'm probably going to say, I mean, we won't be out from the Earth because there is no planet colonizable per se close in the solar system. I wouldn't say Mars and the moon are places you can live on, like huge species. Or you can't really terraform it to have huge civilizations on it. So I'd probably say in terms of space, we'd still be on Earth, but of course, everything on Earth would have changed. I'm sure we'd be hopefully using more renewables, probably using more nuclear energy. I'm not sure. Probably harness the power of fusion a little bit to, I don't know, people talk about Dyson spheres and, kind of extracting the energy of the sun as well. Yeah, that's probably far off. I don't think that's 200 years in the making.
It is kind of funny to think about. If you took a sphere that had
Mhm,
the circumference of the Earth's orbit,
mhm.
and you compare that to the cross section of the Earth, like the difference, like the proportion of area is like 1 to 700 billion. And
Right,
that represents how much of the sun's energy is actually falling on the Earth versus not. And
right,
it's a huge amount of energy, you know.
right,
It's
right.
like,
I mean, yeah, I mean, if we could even, I mean, that's what we're trying to do with solar energy, but maybe if we try to have energy, I think that was the plan for Venus. If they were trying to terraform Venus, is to have these panels kind of floating around in space really close to the sun, and they kind of reorient themselves with the rotation, with the revolution along the orbit. And that itself, so just a few panels, of course that would take a lot of energy to transport right there from Earth. I mean, just the expense of getting material up there. But that could harness, I would say, even if you could harness like 1% of the energy of the sun, you could power your missions in Venus for a year. So that's where it lies, though. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, the sun is quite something.
Okay, so just coming back to that 200-year question. So you say it won't be much different than it is now, but I wanted to ask you a few follow-on questions to kind of tease out
Mhm.
your view of the future. Um, how many planets do you think have humans on it in 200 years?
One? I mean, I'm not counting the moon, but one, Mars, maybe. Just a group of scientists just living there, probably like how it happens in Antarctica now. But I wouldn't say there's a civilization with people. There is, I think, there is Saturn's moon that they kind of found geysers on. I don't remember the name, like Ganymede. I'm not sure. But I think that's where ice was. But the farther you get away from the Earth, how do you transport the astronauts there and back? I mean, just the zero gravity conditions, and then on the way there, the radiation, etc. So I don't think we've optimized traveling to these places, and I don't think we'll have much advances on that anyway in 200 years at least. I don't think so. But yeah, I'm a
So
bit skeptical.
just to clarify, whenever you say one planet, you mean one additional planet to Earth. So
One
like a
additional
total
planet,
two planets.
two planets. Yeah,
Two planets. Okay.
I should have specified. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I just
assuming
wanted.
I'm assuming humans will still be on Earth in 200 years. That's again an assumption.
I would hope so. It's the best
Oh,
place for us so far.
we don't have a choice. It's the only one, at least of now.
So languages. Do you think there's more or less languages than there are today in 200 years?
Uh, I mean, a lot of tribal languages are dying out. I mean, but I wouldn't say more, because I mean, English has kind of superseded all. You are talking about languages that humans speak, though, right? Yeah.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean,
And not computer
eh,
languages are anything like
uh,
that.
no, I mean, I think English gains a level of superiority by the day that other languages cannot attain. I mean, and for instance, if you look at Latin, that kind of dominance lasted about 400, 500 years during the Roman Empire. And if that dominance continues for English, I do see a lot of local languages. For instance, in India, where a lot of us don't really know our local languages, we prefer speaking in English than we would in our local languages. So I see a lot of languages dying out, especially in countries with lots of them, like India.
Uh, I guess on that note, where are you located?
I'm located in Pune, in India, so it's
Oh,
it's
okay.
it's about a couple of hours from Mumbai.
Yeah, I might be in Mumbai in March. So,
Ah, okay. What for?
well, my wife is Indian, so she's going back to
Ah,
visit family and stuff.
okay. That's good to know. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they're actually Sindhis, so they speak Sindhi. So I think that's that language might be one of the ones that doesn't quite make
Guys,
it in 200 years.
so you know how I found you? I found you through someone called Daipak Punjabi.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
He's one of my close friends. So he's Sindhi as well. I don't think he speaks a lot of Sindhi though. So I mean, I think he'd attest to that fact. Sindhi's gonna go.
Yeah. I mean, and oh, well, okay. How about currencies? Do you think we have more currencies or less currencies in 200 years?
Ah, I think currencies would stay about the same, because I think governments have a vested interest in maintaining a currency in their country. Now it depends on how many countries exist in 200 years. I mean, if there is a global superpower that eats the rest up, probably lesser currencies, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look at the EU. I mean, there's like one case with the euro
Right.
superseding the franc and the mark and the lira and etc.
Right. Right. But then I don't think that status quo has changed in the last 50 years since the establishment of the Eurozone. I mean, no new countries have entered. For example, Switzerland or Norway, etc., don't use the euro, and that hasn't changed. So maybe they have good reason to not join another currency, maybe. I
Yeah,
think
and
they've
the
learned from the
UK,
whole
of
Greece
course.
fiasco. Yeah, the UK was never in it, and I think they learned from the whole Greece fiasco that that's probably not a good idea to like have a country like Germany and Greece in the same currency system. That kind of causes the fluctuation to affect one country more adversely than the other.
That's true. Though, you know, in big countries like United States, you have some areas that are more like Germany and other areas that are more like Greece. So we kind of
That's true.
have
Yeah,
that.
that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a big country. I agree.
Yeah.
Now, that's the same case with India as well. Like your currency would be a lot more valued here in Pune than it would be in Mumbai, for instance. Basically, your
Yeah.
money's worthless in Mumbai if you have to pay rent. I don't know how much you've heard about Bombay as a city.
I haven't heard that much. I mean, I've been there 3 times,
Okay.
but give me the scoop.
No, it's super expensive. It's not a city most people can afford. It's a lot of generational wealth. So people who've had houses over the years, they've managed to live in the city. But I would say rents approach New York City, those kind of rents. And in a city like
Okay.
India, that's a lot. I mean, that would be like 10 times someone's annual income on average. So
Wow.
it's that, but then people keep moving to Mumbai because of Bollywood, and they have the dream of being in a Bollywood city. And it's very cosmopolitan. It's somewhat like the Berlin of Germany or the New York City of the US. It feels different as compared to the rest of the country.
But I hear Pune is a very big kind of like vacationing spot, right? So
It used to be, I mean, it used to be pristine, some would say, but now it's yet another city again. I mean, I wouldn't say people come to vacation here, but then there is something called Lonavala. Have you heard of Lonavala? It's kind of
uh-uh.
between Mumbai and Pune. That's where people go a lot to vacation and just
Oh,
to
okay.
chill out.
Huh. Well,
Yeah. That's probably
had to
something you can visit
check
in
it
March
out.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're coming to
absolutely.
India, you should definitely go to Rajasthan. I think a lot of people I know are going to be there in March as well. And then the standard destinations are Kerala, Rajasthan, and then the Northeast, maybe if you want to visit.
Hmm. Yeah. I've only been to Mumbai, Bangalore, and Ujjain.
Ah, right. Okay. Okay. Bangalore conventional, Ujjain, not so much. Not a lot of people generally go there. I haven't been there, but yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
my father-in-law's brother was there, so we went to go
All
visit.
right. Okay.
So it's kind of neat.
It's really interesting. Yep.
So if you could, would you take a trip to space?
If I knew I could 100% be safe, I don't intend to live in space. If it was a trip where I got back and someone guaranteed that I got back, I mean, more or less, I would. Yeah, I would. I'd be
Well,
sweating balls, but yeah, I would.
well, I mean, people get in car accidents every day and die, and plane crashes aren't, 100% eradicated. So I mean, there's always like some risk, and I presume you still drive and you still fly.
I do, but I'm sure the incidence, percentage-wise, of space shuttles crashing is a lot more than, I don't know, the percent of astronauts who've died versus those who've gone into space is a lot higher than people who have died driving. So I don't know, I guess.
But
Mhm.
that's true. That's true. But I I guess how many people would need to go and come back safely before you felt comfortable?
Ah, no, that I mean, I'm a person who still clutches the sides of my airplane seat when I fly. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is like 500 flights later, I still do it. So I mean, it's something that's in my head. I don't think a zillion people would change that. I mean, I'm still flying into space. It's always going to be scary, I guess.
Well, what's the scariest thing you've done?
Oh, I am. I don't think I'm going to sound very cool with the answer here. I don't think I've done something super scary. I don't know. Have I? No, I've probably gone whitewater rafting. Not scary at all. That's probably the most scariest thing I've done. Sorry, not too much of a adventurer.
I've not been whitewater rafting, so I can't say.
Yeah, you probably did something scarier, or probably something worse, at
I
least
don't
on the
know.
adventure scale.
Well, and scary is all a matter of perspective. Like I'm scared of
Yep.
heights, so standing on top of a 8-story building near the edge is pretty scary to me.
So in that case, would you go to space
I
if
don't
you
know.
could?
My answer has been evolving as I've done these interviews.
Okay.
Um, I I think I think once it becomes commonplace, I think I might go. But
Hmm.
hmm.
When you
and
see
I
like a
think
lot
I'm
of people come. Yep.
and I think it might become commonplace in this decade. I don't know. You've been following SpaceX,
I have, yes, with their re-entry vehicles, the reusable ones, etc. Right.
and they're building that completely reusable one called Starship.
I've heard of it. Yes.
and it could go from Houston to Mumbai in 30 minutes.
Wow, okay. That's
And
promising.
they think they could be profitable at the price of an equivalent first-class airline ticket.
Okay, and that is in 10 years?
It was 2 or 3 years ago, so hopefully it's 7 or 8 years now.
I mean, the same guy did say that self-driving cars would be reality in 2015. So, I mean, that's already 10 years off the mark almost.
That's
Probably.
true. That's true. However, I'm actually in a Tesla right now at the moment, getting the
okay.
car charged. So I've tried the self-driving. You know, it still has some works to do, but it's surprisingly good. So
Okay, that's good to
yeah.
know. Okay, so are you in California? Is that where you run these is that where these tests happen for self-driving, or everywhere else as well?
Well, I'm in Houston, Texas,
All right.
and you know, it's just a regular consumer model. So they've like pushed out the beta to pretty
Okay.
much everybody.
Right.
And so you know, you can put in the address, tell it to start self-driving, and it will go down the street and navigate until it gets there. And
But doesn't your car need the LiDAR sensors on top to do that?
it uses only visual cameras.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, I remember the self-driving cars of 5 years ago. They used to have these cameras, those big ones on top, on the sides as well. Okay, that's good
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah, no LiDAR on the Teslas, but some of the other cars have them for sure.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think Elon's view was, well, humans use eyes. Why do you need more than eyes? Visual. Anyway,
Pretty much.
we'll see. So imagine this.
Can I just stop you for a second?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
There's someone at the door. I'll just get him.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Oops, sorry.
No worries. I just paused the recording and just restarted it. Let's see. Let's assume that you or one of your descendants decides to move to Mars, and it's 200 years in the future, and you know, your great grandchild is in high school, doing a history project, and for whatever reason they're doing it on the 2020s. What do you hope your future grandchild could write about this decade? And you could use your imagination because we're only like 2-3 years into the decade, so there's still some opportunity for other things to happen.
Okay, so is my great grandchild in Mars at this point when he's writing this?
And Mars, was born on Mars. Her parents were born on Mars, and and you know, they're hoping one day to take that trip back to Earth. They've been going to the gym every day to build up their muscles, and you know, taking special medicine. But
I get it. Okay.
you know, and you know, she only has birthdays every like what, 22 months because you know, Mars orbits. So you know, she's in high school, but she's only like 8 years old in Martian time.
Okay, we have to recalibrate those then. What would he write, or what would she write? I mean, the species on Mars would definitely describe. I mean, I don't know about the 2020s, but okay, yes, the 2010s onwards, when we kind of did reach out towards Mars, I would call it a kind of a renaissance. Basically, that's kind of how they'd describe the period, a renaissance in space age. That's kind of when humans started moving out. And I don't know, probably by the end of the 2030s, they would say it was the start of the decline for the planet, for Earth. And then that's probably why, I'm assuming that's why everyone is on Mars and no one's on Earth anyway. So they kind of said, yeah, that was kind of the peak that the Earth reached, and then that was the downfall since then. And that's when humans started to look for ways to move out of their ecosystem into other planets, maybe Mars. Yeah, I assume that's I'm not denying that that's when the start happens, the 2020s. It already has, but it's just what I believe is that just might take a longer time than 200 years. Probably it's not going to be my great grandchildren. It's going to be someone 300 years, 400 years from now. just a bit pessimistic.
I understand. Yeah, it's amazing how like technology comes in spurts. I
Yeah,
mean, for thousands of years, we didn't even have a
suddenly,
pocket calculator, and suddenly
right,
we go from pocket calculator to iPhones, and
exactly.
then do we just keep with iPhones for the next 100 years, or do we get like brain implants? I mean, like
Mm.
how does this go? And then once you have the brain implants, are we all just like, in like a barracks of beds and just only mentally doing
Right,
stuff, and we have like IVs and
right.
tubes maintaining our body? Like, I don't know.
Right, you
Like the
upload
Matrix.
your mind to the metaverse, for the lack of a better word. That's what Zuckerberg would call it. Yeah, that's, I don't know. I mean, I don't think the growth of technology is linear, as you said. There's been a lot of progress, but we are going to hit a roadblock somewhere in terms of our own mental capabilities or what AI can do. And probably there's going to be a bit of a slump, if not a slump, just periods where we don't really do as much. For instance, with fusion, I think we've been working on it for about 60 or 70 years. Just as soon as we had the atomic bombs, we started working on fusion as well. But then there has been little progress there. I mean, when you can't do it, you can't do it. That's kind of where humanity kind of agrees to just have a stalemate for a while.
Yeah, it's like you keep bucking up against this wall, and then at some point you find a crack and then a breakthrough.
Right, right. And those might take time. It's not always linear. But yeah.
Yeah. I lost that last comment, unfortunately. Like the audio on my side cut out.
Oh no, I was just kind of reiterating that it's not always linear. Sometimes you just end up in periods where there's no growth or no perceived growth in terms of knowledge. That's, I think, because we've all lived in a generation where there's been unending technological progress. Like there's been something that's improved on every year, but then I don't know, maybe there's a limit to that. Maybe you can't just always keep improving. Just sometimes you hit a roadblock.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, especially around genetics. Like in the 1990s, we first sequenced the human genome, and it was like a multi-million-dollar project. And now you and I could go get our own genome sequenced for a few $100s.
Right.
And you could create customized bacteria, and just like we have all this power.
I think that's going to be a big advantage of time, that some of the things that we did 20 years ago that were super expensive are not going to be expensive anymore. Like, for instance, genetics, for example, something that was out of reach, or computers that were out of reach 20, 25 years ago are not anymore. So
it's really interesting. Yeah. Well, I know we covered a lot of topics, and I see this as sort of a time capsule for that high schooler 200 years from now to actually have some source material. Is there any particular anything that you'd like to add that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Nothing as such. I thought we covered a lot of stuff already. Nothing that I'd want to add.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for participating in my project, and I hope maybe we can actually meet up in March. My plans aren't settled yet. I'm not even sure if I'm going. But if I do go, maybe it'll work out.
Awesome. Let me know. Let me know if you land up in Bombay or Pune and I'm there.
That's awesome. Well, you have a good rest of your day.
You too. Have a good day. Bye, Nathan.
Bye-bye.
Bye.